"Excuse me, are you lost?" Those sharp, piercing words cut through the summer air like a blade. Maya had just stepped out of her car, her arms full of moving boxes, when she heard them. Her 10-year-old daughter, Zoe, was still buckled in, smiling and peeking out the window, excited to explore their new neighborhood. It was supposed to be a big day. Fresh start, new home, new hope. But what should have been the happiest moment in years was interrupted by a woman Maya didn't even know. A middle-aged white woman with perfectly styled short blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, and a clipboard clutched tightly to her chest, marched down the sidewalk like she owned the street. Her name was Susan, but everyone in the area whispered about her as Karen, the unofficial neighborhood watchdog. Without even a hello, she zeroed in on Maya and said with icy authority, "This is a private community. We have standards here. No offense, but we've never had your kind here before." Maya blinked, stunned, as the woman continued talking like this was a perfectly normal conversation. Zoe had just opened the door and was waving innocently at another child on a bike across the street. But the little boy didn't wave back. In fact, the kid's mother quickly called him inside. Maya's heart sank. Something wasn't right. The woman leaned in closer, lowering her voice as if whispering a secret no one else should hear. Her breath smelled like peppermint and bitterness. "This neighborhood isn't meant for people like you. You should look somewhere more familiar." Her smile was tight. Too tight. The kind that said, "I'm being polite, but I want you gone." Maya took a deep breath, her face calm even as her heart raced. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to be made to feel like a trespasser in her own life. Years of saving, late nights working double shifts, skipping vacations, living paycheck to paycheck just to give her daughter a better future. And now, they finally had it. Their dream home. She set the box down carefully and looked Karen squarely in the eye. "That's funny," Maya said, her voice cool and confident. "I just bought this house, paid in full. No mortgage, no co-signer. I think I belong here more than your attitude does." There was a pause. Karen's mouth twitched. She hadn't expected that. Zoe stood beside her mother now, holding onto her hand. "Mommy, why is that lady being mean?" she asked, her voice soft and confused. Karen quickly fumbled with her clipboard, pretending to check something. "Well, I hope you follow the rules here. HOA meetings are the first Saturday of the month. We don't allow loud music, junk cars, or certain behaviors." Maya chuckled. Not loudly, not angrily. Just enough to let Karen know she saw straight through her fake professionalism. "Don't worry," Maya said. "The only behavior I won't allow is disrespect, and you're already testing that." Karen's face flushed. She wasn't used to being spoken back to. For years, she'd bullied her way around the neighborhood, intimidating newcomers, making herself feel powerful. But this was the first time someone had called her out without raising their voice, without losing their dignity. A few neighbors had started peeking from their windows. One woman across the street even cracked her door open. They were watching, some in silence, some in shame. But none stepped in. Karen cleared her throat. "Well, enjoy your day," she muttered, spinning around on her heel and walking away with her clipboard hugged tight. Maya stood for a moment, her chest tight but proud. She knelt beside Zoe, brushing her daughter's curly hair behind her ear. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "some people are afraid of what they don't understand, but don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong." Zoe nodded slowly, still confused, but hugged her mom tightly. Karen. That was her name, the woman with the sunglasses and the clipboard, the one who had greeted Maya with suspicion on moving day, wasn't just a random nosy neighbor. She was the president of the HOA, the Homeowners Association. And from the very first moment Maya and her daughter Zoe moved in, Karen made it her personal mission to make their lives uncomfortable. Almost like she had been waiting her whole life to have power over someone. And now she had found the perfect target. Within days of their arrival, the complaints began flooding in. Karen didn't waste any time. First, it was about Maya's lawn. "Your grass is half an inch too high," she wrote in an official-looking letter that she slid into Maya's mailbox, even though the lawn was freshly mowed and no different from the other homes on the street. Then, just 2 days later, she rang the doorbell with a stern look on her face, pointing to the chalk drawing Zoe had made on the driveway. Colorful hearts, a sun, and her name written in big happy letters. "This is vandalism," Karen claimed. "It lowers the value of the homes around you." Maya was stunned. It was sidewalk chalk, the kind that washes away in the rain. But rather than argue, Maya remained calm, nodded, and helped Zoe rinse it off, even though it broke her heart to see her daughter's art being treated like a crime. Then came the parking drama. One afternoon, after picking Zoe up from school, Maya came home and parked slightly over the white line in front of her own house. 2 inches. That's all. But the very next morning, another letter was taped to her door. "Improper parking is a violation of HOA guidelines. Please adhere to community standards." Still, Maya kept her cool. She followed every rule. She cut the grass to regulation height. She double-checked her parking lines. She even kept Zoe from drawing on the sidewalk again, but no matter how hard she tried to be the perfect neighbor, Karen always found something new to complain about. The final straw came one sunny Saturday when Maya's family came over for a small backyard barbecue. Her cousin, who drove an old black SUV, parked on the street in front of her house. Within minutes, police lights flashed. 2 officers showed up at the door. Karen had called the cops, reporting a suspicious vehicle and claiming there might be illegal activity. Maya stayed calm, explained the situation, and introduced the officers to her cousin, who was literally flipping burgers by the grill. The officers quickly realized there was no problem at all and even apologized for the inconvenience. But Karen? She stood across the street with that same smug look, arms folded, lips curled in a satisfied smirk, as if she had won something. Later that night, Zoe, who had stayed quiet through most of it, finally asked, "Mom, why doesn't she like us?" Maya looked at her daughter's innocent face and felt a deep sadness. No child should have to question whether they're welcome in their own neighborhood. She took a deep breath and said, "Some people fear what they don't understand, Zoe. But just because they treat us differently doesn't mean we become like them. We rise above it. We show them who we really are through grace, not hate." And so, Maya decided not to give Karen the satisfaction of reacting. She stayed strong. She showed up at every HOA meeting. She smiled. She contributed ideas. She waved to neighbors, volunteered at school events, and built a quiet but powerful presence in the community. But even as she did everything right, Karen kept watching, whispering to other neighbors, saying things like, "Let's see how long they last here." But what Karen didn't know was that Maya had faced worse in her life. She wasn't just here to last. She was here to stay. After 6 long months of quiet endurance, of nodding politely while swallowing her frustration, of telling her daughter Zoe that everything would be okay while silently wondering if it really would, Maya had finally had enough. The petty notes left on her doorstep, the phony noise complaints, the sudden visits from animal control even though she didn't even own a pet, the trash mysteriously scattered on her lawn. She had endured all of it in silence. But the final straw came when Zoe came home crying, because Karen had yelled at her for playing in the front yard, saying, "You people don't understand how things are done around here." That night, Maya sat at her kitchen table and made a decision. No more hiding, no more silence. It was time to speak up. So she did something Karen never expected. She showed up at the next HOA meeting, walking in calmly but confidently, with a thick binder tucked under her arm and a determined fire in her eyes. The room was filled with the usual crowd, older couples, lawn-obsessed men, dog walkers. But when Maya walked in, all eyes turned. Karen sat in the front row, dressed like she was chairing the United Nations, her clipboard in hand and her lips pursed in that smug, tight-lipped smile she always wore. Maya waited her turn, and when she stood up, the room fell quiet. "Good evening," she began, her voice clear and steady. "My name is Maya Parker. I've been a homeowner here for 6 months. Some of you know me. Some of you only know what's been said about me. Tonight, I want to share the truth." She opened the binder and held up the first page. "This is a copy of every false complaint filed against me by one person, Karen Wilkins, 42 in total. Noise, parking, trash, you name it. All of them dismissed by city authorities." She flipped to the next page. "Here are video clips from my security camera. Karen walking onto my property, peering into my windows, placing anonymous notes on my door, even letting her dog poop on my lawn and walking away." The room stirred. Whispers, raised eyebrows. A few people glanced at Karen, whose face had gone rigid. "And here," Maya continued, "are letters and messages from other neighbors. 5 families who've also been targeted by Karen's rules and pressure. People who were told their Christmas lights were too flashy, their kids too loud, their grass too brown. Some were new families. Some were longtime residents. All of them felt they couldn't speak up." Maya took a deep breath. Her voice softened. "I moved here for a better life. I worked hard, saved for years, and bought this house with pride. Not to be judged, not to be stalked, not to be made to feel like a stranger in my own neighborhood." The room was silent. Karen opened her mouth to speak, but Maya raised her hand gently and added, "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to ask this community one thing. If this HOA truly stands for fairness and unity, then we need to hold everyone to the same standard. Not just the people who look a certain way or make friends with the right people. We deserve better than fear and fake rules." For a moment, no one moved. Then a woman in the back clapped once. Then again. Then others joined. Within seconds, the room erupted in applause, not just polite claps, but real, heartfelt support. One man stood up, someone Maya had never met, and said, "It's time for a new HOA president, someone who actually listens." Karen's face turned red, her mouth opening in shock. She looked around, expecting the usual support, but saw none. Her power had always relied on fear, not respect. That night didn't just change Maya's life. It woke up an entire neighborhood that had been quietly tiptoeing around one person's control for far too long. And as Maya sat down beside Zoe, who had watched from the doorway, she smiled. Not because she won, but because she finally felt like she belonged. 2 weeks later, the entire neighborhood gathered at the community center for a vote that would determine the future of the HOA. The air was thick with anticipation, and Maya could feel the tension radiating from every direction. People who had once ignored her now whispered, stole glances, and looked uncertain. Karen stood at the front, arms crossed, her signature clipboard in hand, flashing forced smiles like she still believed the outcome was already decided. But things had changed, quietly, steadily. Maya hadn't just sat back after the incident on her moving day. She'd started talking to neighbors, inviting conversations instead of arguments. She showed up at local park cleanups, helped an elderly couple with their groceries, even hosted a free lemonade stand with Zoe where neighborhood kids played together for hours. People noticed. One by one, the carefully built walls Karen had constructed over the years started to crumble. Not because Maya knocked them down, but because she walked right past them with kindness and strength. When the ballots were finally counted, Karen's face dropped. It wasn't even close. She had lost, badly, and in a twist that made the entire room buzz with murmurs of disbelief and cautious hope, Maya was elected the new HOA president. But instead of gloating or rubbing her victory in anyone's face, Maya stood at the podium with grace and quiet authority. She looked out at the very people who had once doubted her, judged her, even feared her. And with calm determination, she laid out a vision not built on punishment, but progress. Her first act as president? She passed a resolution banning racially motivated complaints, making it clear that diversity wasn't a threat. It was a strength. Then she introduced monthly community meetups, informal gatherings with food, music, and open conversation, giving neighbors a chance to actually know each other. And as if that weren't enough, she championed the creation of a small but beautiful playground at the heart of the community. A space where kids of every background could laugh, climb, and dream together. Slowly, things began to shift. Conversations bloomed on front lawns. Parents exchanged phone numbers. Birthday party invitations traveled across fences that used to separate, not connect. Even some of Karen's most loyal supporters, those who had once nodded along with her quiet bigotry, began to admit the truth. Things were better now. The air felt lighter. The silence that once followed Maya on her walks had been replaced by waves, hellos, and genuine smiles. Some of those neighbors, eyes low and voices trembling, even approached her to apologize, not just for Karen's behavior, but for their own complicity in allowing it to go unchecked. And Karen? She tried to keep her distance, her pride still intact, but even she couldn't deny the peace that had settled over the community. She watched from her window as Zoe played tag with kids who had once been told to go back where they came from. She saw Maya leading a neighborhood book club, her living room filled with laughter and light. Maya never rubbed it in. She didn't hold grudges. She didn't seek revenge. What she did seek and build was unity. She turned a place that once saw her as a threat into a home that saw her as a leader. She taught them all that real power doesn't come from fear, control, or exclusion. It comes from courage, grace, and the willingness to build something better together. And in doing so, Maya didn't just find her place in the neighborhood. She helped everyone else find theirs too. It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind where birdsong drifted through open windows and the neighborhood moved at half its usual pace. Maya had just finished folding laundry when she heard an unexpected knock at the door. Curious, cautious, she approached and peeked through the window. There, standing on the porch with her hands nervously clasped in front of her, was Karen. But this wasn't the same Karen who had once marched across the lawn with a clipboard and an attitude sharp enough to cut glass. This Karen looked different, vulnerable even. Gone were the sunglasses and the tightly pressed lips. Her shoulders were slouched, her eyes tired but soft, and she looked like she had been rehearsing what to say for days. When Maya opened the door just a crack, Karen took a small step forward and spoke, her voice low, almost trembling. "I wanted to say sorry," she began, pausing as if searching for the right words. "For everything. You didn't deserve what I did. I guess I was scared. Or maybe just plain ignorant. But I was wrong." Maya stood there, stunned. Part of her wanted to shut the door and never look back, to let Karen sit with the guilt that she had so easily flung at others. But another part, the mother, the woman who believed in progress and second chances, hesitated. Zoe, now standing quietly behind her mother, peeked out from behind Maya's leg, curiosity in her eyes. Maya took a breath, long and steady, and opened the door fully. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm but strong. "Growth is hard, but it's never too late to start." There was a long pause, one of those rare moments when everything seems to stand still. Karen blinked, clearly taken aback by the grace offered to her. She nodded slowly, as if accepting not just Maya's words, but the weight of her own actions. Zoe, sensing the moment, tilted her head and asked innocently, "Mom, is she nice now?" Maya smiled gently, kneeling down to meet her daughter's eyes. "She's learning, baby," she said. "Just like we all are." It was a simple sentence, but it carried years of history, struggle, forgiveness, and hope. Karen's eyes welled up with tears she didn't bother to hide. She wiped her cheek and whispered, "I'd like to come to the next community gathering, if that's okay." Maya stood up, surprised but pleased. "It's more than okay," she replied. "You're welcome." And so, that evening, for the first time since Maya had moved into the neighborhood, Karen walked into the community garden, not with a list of rules or a sense of superiority, but with a plate of brownies and a smile that, though a bit shaky, was genuine. Some neighbors watched in disbelief. Others nodded in quiet approval. But what mattered most was that Maya welcomed her with open arms. They stood side by side while Zoe played with other kids, laughter ringing through the air like music. For the first time, Karen didn't feel like she was protecting something. She felt like she was part of something. And as conversations flowed and new connections bloomed, Maya glanced over and realized something powerful. Change doesn't always come loudly or dramatically. Sometimes it starts with a knock at the door, a few honest words, and the courage to forgive. That day, the apology that shocked everyone became the beginning of something better. And while Karen still had a long way to go, she had taken the first real step. Not just into Maya's life, but into becoming the kind of neighbor, the kind of person she never thought she could be. And just like that, Maya proved something far bigger than property ownership. She proved that dignity, strength, and grace can silence even the loudest hate. Karen thought her world was too perfect to be touched by change. But Maya's courage showed that real power doesn't come from gates or rules. It comes from rising above and standing tall in the face of prejudice. So the next time someone says, "You don't belong here," remember Maya, and show them just how wrong they are. What would you do in Maya's shoes? Comment your thoughts below. We read everyone, like if Maya's story inspired you. Subscribe for more real and powerful stories that spark change.